The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Vana Parva. Section 295, Pativrata Mahatmya Parva continued. Markandeya said, the powerful Satyavan then, accompanied by his wife, plucked fruits and filled his wallet with them. And he then began to fell branches of trees. And as he was hewing them, he began to perspire. And in consequence of that exercise his head began to ache. And afflicted with toil, he approached his beloved wife, and addressed her, saying, O Savitri, owing to this hard exercise my head acheth, and all my limbs and my heart also are afflicted sorely. O thou of restrained speech, I think myself unwell, I feel as if my head is being pierced with numerous darts. Therefore, auspicious lady, I wish to sleep, for I have not the power to stand. Hearing these words, Savitri quickly advancing, approached her husband, and sat down upon the ground, placing his head upon her lap. And that helpless lady, thinking of Narada's words, began to calculate the appointed division of the day, the hour, and the moment. The next moment she saw a person clad in red attire with his head decked with a diadem. And his body was of large proportions and effulgent as the sun. And he was of a darkish hue, had red eyes, carried a noose in his hand, and was dreadful to behold. And he was standing beside Satyavan and was steadfastly gazing at him. And seeing him, Savitri gently placed her husband's head on the ground, and rising suddenly, with a trembling heart, spake these words in distressful accents, seeing this thy superhuman form, I take thee to be a deity. If thou wilt, tell me, chief of the gods, who thou art and what also thou intendest to do. Thereat, Yama replied, O Savitri, thou art ever devoted to thy husband, and thou art also endued with ascetic merit. It is for this reason that I hold converse with thee. Do thou, auspicious one, know me for Yama. This thy lord Satyavan, the son of a king, hath his days run out. I shall therefore take him away binding him in this noose. Know this to be my errand. At these words Savitri said, I had heard that thy emissaries come to take away mortals, worshipful one. Why then, Lord, hast thou come in person? Markandeya continued, thus addressed by her, the illustrious lord of P3s, with a view to oblige her, began to unfold to her truly all about his intentions. And Yama said, this prince is endued with virtues and beauty of person, and is a sea of accomplishments. He deserveth not to be borne away by my emissaries. Therefore is it that I have come personally. Saying this, Yama by main force pulled out of the body of Satyavan, a person of the measure of the thumb, bound in noose and completely under subjection. And when Satyavan's life had thus been taken out, the body, deprived of breath, and shorn of luster, and destitute of motion, became unsightly to behold. And binding Satyavan's vital essence, Yama proceeded in a southerly direction. Thereupon, with heart overwhelmed in grief, the exalted Savitri, ever devoted to her lord and crowned with success in respect of her woes, began to follow Yama. And at this, Yama said, desist Savitri. Go back, and perform the funeral obsequies of thy lord. Thou art freed from all thy obligations to thy lord. Thou hast come as far as it is possible to come. Savitri replied, whither my husband is being carried, or whither he goeth of his own accord, I will follow him thither. This is the eternal custom, by virtue of my asceticism, of my regard for my superiors, of my affection for my lord, of my observance of vows, as well as of thy favor, my course is unimpeded. It hath been declared by wise men endued with true knowledge that by walking only 7 paces with another, one contracteth a friendship with one's companion. Keeping that friendship, which I have contracted with thee in view, I shall speak to thee something. Do thou listen to it. They that have not their souls under control, acquire not merit by leading the 4 successive modes of life, viz., celibacy with study, domesticity, retirement into the woods, and renunciation of the world. That which is called religious merit is said to consist of true knowledge. The wise therefore have declared religious merit to be the foremost of all things, and not the passage through the 4 successive modes. By practicing the duties of even one of these 4 modes agreeable to the directions of the wise, we have attained to true merit, and therefore we do not desire the 2nd or the 3rd mode, viz., celibacy with study or renunciation. It is for this again that the wise have declared religious merit to be the foremost of all things. Hearing these words of hers, Yama said, Do thou desist. I have been pleased with these words of thine couched in proper letters and accents, and based on reason. Do thou ask for a boon. Accept the life of thy husband, thou of faultless features, I will bestow on thee any boon that thou mayst solicit. Hearing these words, Savitri said, Deprived of his kingdom and bereft also of sight, my father-in-law leadeth a life of retirement in our sylvan asylum. Let that king through thy favor attain his eyesight and become strong like either fire or the sun. Yama said, Thou of faultless features, I grant thee this boon. It will even be as thou hast said. It seems that thou art fatigued with thy journey. Do thou desist, therefore, and return. Suffer not thyself to be weary any longer. Savitri said, What weariness can I feel in the presence of my husband? The Lord that is my husband's is certainly mine also. Whither thou carriest my husband, thither will I also repair. O chief of the celestials, do thou again listen to me. Even a single interview with the pious is highly desirable, friendship with them is still more so. And intercourse with the virtuous can never be fruitless. Therefore, one should live in the company of the righteous. Yama said, These words that thou hast spoken, so fraught with useful instruction, delight the heart and enhance the wisdom of even the learned. Therefore, lady, solicit thou a 2nd boon, accept the life of Satyavan. Savitri said, Some time before, my wise and intelligent father-in-law was deprived of his kingdom. May that monarch regain his kingdom. And may that superior of mine never renounce his duties. Even this is the 2nd boon that I solicit. Then Yama said, The king shall soon regain his kingdom. Nor shall he ever fall off from his duties. Thus, daughter of a king, have I fulfilled thy desire. Do thou now desist. Return. Do not take any future trouble. Savitri said, Thou hast restrained all creatures by thy decrees, and it is by thy decrees that thou takest them away, not according to thy will. Therefore it is, God, O Divine One, that people call thee Yama. Do thou listen to the words that I say. The eternal duty of the good towards all creatures is never to injure them in thought, word, and deed, but to bear them love and give them their due. As regards this world, everything here is like this husband of mine. Men are destitute of both devotion and skill. The good, however, show mercy to even their foes when these seek their protection. Yama said, As water to the thirsty soul, so are these words uttered by thee to me. Therefore, do thou, O fair lady, if thou will, once again ask for any boon except Satyavana's life. At these words Savitri replied, That Lord of earth, my father is without sons. That he may have 100 sons begotten of his loins so that his line may be perpetuated, is the 3rd boon I would ask of thee. Yama said, Thy sire, auspicious lady, shall obtain 100 illustrious sons who will perpetuate and increase their father's race. Now, O daughter of a king, thou hast obtained thy wish. Do thou desist. Thou hast come far enough. Savitri said, staying by the side of my husband, I am not conscious of the length of the way I have walked. Indeed, my mind rusheth to yet a longer way off. Do thou again, as thou goest on, listen to the words that I will presently utter. Thou art the powerful son of Vivaswat. It is for this that thou art called Vivasivata by the wise. And, O Lord, since thou dealest out equal law unto all created things, thou hast been designated the Lord of justice. One reposeth not, even in one's own self, the confidence that one doth in the righteous. Therefore, every one wisheth particularly for intimacy with the righteous. It is goodness of heart alone that inspireth the confidence of all creatures. And it is for this that people rely particularly on the righteous. And hearing these words, Yama said, the words that thou utterest, fair lady, I have not heard from any one save thee. I am highly pleased with this speech of thine. Accept the life of Satyavan, solicit thou, therefore, a fourth boon, and then go thy way. Savitri then said, both of me and Satyavan's loins, begotten by both of us, let there be a century of sons possessed of strength and prowess and capable of perpetuating our race. Even this is the fourth boon that I would beg of thee. Hearing these words of hers, Yama replied, thou shalt, O lady, obtain a century of sons, possessed of strength and prowess, and causing thee great delight, O daughter of a king, let no more weariness be thine. Do thou desist. Thou hast already come too far. Thus addressed, Savitri said, they that are righteous always practice eternal morality. And the communion of the pious with the pious is never fruitless. Nor is there any danger to the pious from those that are pious. And verily it is the righteous who by their truth make the sun move in the heaven. And it is the righteous that support the earth by their austerities. And, O king, it is the righteous upon whom both the past and the future depend. Therefore, they that are righteous, are never cheerless in the company of the righteous. Knowing this to be the eternal practice of the good and righteous, they that are righteous continue to do good to others without expecting any benefit in return. A good office is never thrown away on the good and virtuous. Neither interest nor dignity suffereth any injury by such an act. And since such conduct ever adheres to the righteous often become the protectors of all. Hearing these words of hers, Yama replied, the more thou utterest such speeches that are pregnant with great import, full of honeyed phrases, instinct with morality, and agreeable to mind, the more is the respect that I feel for thee. O thou that art so devoted to thy Lord, ask for some incomparable boon. Thus addressed, Savitri said, O bestower of honors, the boon thou hast already given me is incapable of accomplishment without union with my husband. Therefore, among other boons, I ask for this, may this Satyavan be restored to life. Deprived of my husband, I am as one dead. Without my husband, I do not wish for happiness. Without my husband, I do not wish for heaven itself. Without my husband, I do not wish for prosperity. Without my husband, I cannot make up my mind to live. Thou thyself hast bestowed on me the boon, namely, of a century of sons, yet thou takest away my husband. I ask for this boon, may Satyavan be restored to life, for by that thy words will be made true. Markandeya continued, thereupon saying, so be it. Vivaswat's son, Yama, the dispenser of justice, untied his noose, and with cheerful heart said these words to Savitri, thus, O auspicious and chaste lady, is thy husband freed by me. Thou wilt be able to take him back free from disease. And he will attain to success. and along with thee, he will attain a life of 400 years. And celebrating sacrifices with due rites, he will achieve great fame in this world. And upon these Satyavan will also beget a century of sons. And these Kshatriyas with their sons and grandsons will all be kings, and will always be famous in connection with thy name. And thy father also will beget 100 sons on thy mother Malavi. And under the name of the Malavas, thy Kshatriya brothers, resembling the celestials, will be widely known along with their sons and daughters. And having bestowed these boons on Savitri and having thus made her desist, Yama departed for his abode. Savitri, after Yama had gone away, went back to the spot where her husband's ash-colored corpse lay, and seeing her lord on the ground, she approached him, and taking hold of him, she placed his head on her lap and herself sat down on the ground. Then Satyavan regained his consciousness, and affectionately eyeing Savitri again and again, like one come home after a sojourn in a strange land, he addressed her thus, "Alas, I have slept long. Wherefore didst thou not awake me? And where is that same sable person that was dragging me away?" At these words of his, Savitri said, "Thou hast, bull among men, slept long on my lap." That restrainer of creatures, the worshipful Yama, had gone away. Thou art refreshed, O blessed one, and sleep hath forsaken thee, son of a king. If thou art able, rise thou up. Behold, the night is deep. Markandeya continued, having regained consciousness, Satyavan rose up like one who had enjoyed a sweet sleep, and seeing every side covered with woods, said, "O girl of slender waist, I came with thee for procuring fruits. Then while I was cutting wood I felt a pain in my head. And on account of that intense pain about my head I was unable to stand for any length of time, and therefore I lay on thy lap and slept. All this, O auspicious lady, I remember. Then, as thou didst embrace me, sleep stole away my senses. I then saw that it was dark all around. In the midst of it I saw a person of exceeding effulgence. If thou knowest everything, do thou then, O girl of slender waist, tell me whether what I saw was only a dream or a reality." Thereupon, Savitri addressed him saying, "The night deepens. I shall, O prince, relate everything unto thee on the morrow. Arise, arise, may good betide thee. And, O thou of excellent voice, come and behold thy parents. The sun hath set a long while ago and the night deepens. Those rangers of the night, having frightful voices, are walking about in glee. And sounds are heard, proceeding from the denizens of the forest treading through the woods. These terrible shrieks of jackals that are issuing from the south and the east make my heart tremble in fear." Satyavan then said, "Covered with deep darkness, the wilderness hath worn a dreadful aspect. Thou wilt therefore not be able to discern the tract and consequently wilt not be able to go." Then Savitri replied, "In consequence of a conflagration having taken place in the forest today, a withered tree standeth aflame, and the flames being stirred by the wind are discerned now and then. I shall fetch some fire and light these faggots around. Do thou dispel all anxiety. I will do all this if thou darest not go, for I find thee unwell. Nor wilt thou be able to discover the way through this forest enveloped in darkness. Tomorrow when the woods become visible, we will go hence, if thou please. If, O sinless one, it is thy wish, we shall pass this night even here." At these words of hers, Satyavan replied, "The pain in my head is off, and I feel well in my limbs. With thy favor I wish to behold my father and mother. Never before did I return to the hermitage after the proper time had passed away. Even before it is twilight my mother confineth me within the asylum. Even when I come out during the day, my parents become anxious on my account, and my father searcheth for me, together with all the inhabitants of the sylvan asylums. Before this, moved by deep grief, my father and mother had rebuked me many times and often saying, "Thou earnest having tarried long. I am thinking of the pass they have today come to on my account, for surely, great grief will be theirs when they miss me." One night before this the old couple, who loved me dearly, wept from deep sorrow and said unto me, "Deprived of thee, O son, we cannot live for even a moment. As long as thou livest, so long surely we also will live. Thou art the crutch of these blind ones, on thee doth perpetuity of our race depend. On thee also depend our funeral cake, our fame and our descendants. My mother is old and my father also is so. I am surely their crutch. If they see me not in the night, what will be their plight? I hate that slumber of mine for the sake of which my unoffending mother and my father have both been in trouble, and I myself also am placed in such rending distress. Without my father and mother I cannot bear to live. It is certain that by this time my blind father, his mind disconsolate with grief, is asking every one of the inhabitants of the hermitage about me. I do not, O fair girl, grieve so much for myself as I do for my sire and for my weak mother ever obedient to her lord. Surely they will be afflicted with extreme anguish on account of me. I hold my life so long as they live. And I know that they should be maintained by me and that I should do only what is agreeable to them." Markandeya continued, having said this, that virtuous youth who loved and revered his parents, afflicted with grief, held up his arms and began to lament in accents of woe. And seeing her lord overwhelmed with sorrow, the virtuous Savitri wiped away the tears from his eyes and said, "If I have observed austerities and have given away in charity and have performed sacrifice, may this night be for the good of my father-in-law, mother-in-law and husband. I do not remember having told a single falsehood, even in jest. Let my father-in-law and mother-in-law hold their lives by virtue of the truth." Satyavan said, "I long for the sight of my father and mother. Therefore, O Savitri, proceed without delay. O beautiful damsel, I swear by my own self that if I find any evil to have befallen my father and mother, I will not live. If thou hast any regard for virtue, if thou wishest me to live, if it is thy duty to do what is agreeable to me, proceed thou to the hermitage." The beautiful Savitri then rose and tying up her hair, raised her husband in her arms. And Satyavan having risen, rubbed his limbs with his hands. And as he surveyed all around, his eyes fell upon his wallet. Then Savitri said unto him, "Tomorrow thou mayst gather fruits. And I shall carry thy axe for thy ease." Then hanging up the wallet upon the bough of a tree, and taking up the axe, she reapproached her husband. And that lady of beautiful thighs, placing her husband's left arm upon her left shoulder, and embracing him with her right arms, proceeded with elephantic gait. Then Satyavan said, "O timid one, by virtue of habit, the forest paths are known to me. And further, by the light of the moon between the trees, I can see them. We have now reached the same path that we took in the morning for gathering fruits. Do thou, auspicious one, proceed by the way that we had come, thou needst not any longer feel dubious about our path. Near that tract overgrown with palasa tree, the way diverges into two. Do thou proceed along the path that lies to the north of it. I am now well and have got back my strength. I long to see my father and mother." Saying this, Satyavan hastily proceeded towards the hermitage. Thus ends the 295th section in the Pativrata Mahatmya Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 296, Pativrata Mahatmya Parva continued. Markandeya said, "Meanwhile the mighty Dhumatina, having regained his sight, could see everything. And when his vision grew clear he saw everything around him. And, bull of the Bharata race, proceeding with his wife C.I.E to all the neighboring asylums in search of his son, he became extremely distressed on his account. And that night the old couple went about searching in asylums and rivers and woods and floods. And whenever they heard any sound, they stood raising their heads, anxiously thinking that their son was coming, and said, "Oh, yonder cometh Satyavan with Savitri." And they rushed hither and thither like maniacs, their feet torn, cracked, wounded, and bleeding, pierced with thorns and kusa blades. Then all the Brahmanas dwelling in that hermitage came unto them, and surrounding them on all sides, comforted them, and brought them back to their own asylum. And there Dhumatsana with his wife surrounded by aged ascetics, was entertained with stories of monarchs of former times. And although that old couple desirous of seeing their son was comforted, yet recollecting the youthful days of their son, they became exceedingly sorry. And afflicted with grief they began to lament in piteous accents, saying, "Alas son, alas, chaste daughter-in-law, where are you?" Then a truthful Brahmana of the name of Suvacha spake unto them, saying, "Considering the austerities, self-restraint, and behavior of his wife Savitri, there can be no doubt that Satyavan liveth." And Gautama said, "I have studied all the Veds with their branches, and I have acquired great ascetic merit. And I have led a celibate existence, practicing also the brahmacharya mode of life. I have gratified Agni and my superiors. With rapt soul I have also observed all the vows, and I have, according to the ordinance, frequently lived upon air alone. By virtue of this ascetic merit, I am cognizant of all the doings of others. Therefore, do thou take it for certain that Satyavan liveth." Thereupon his disciples said, "The words that have fallen from the lips of my preceptor can never be false. Therefore, Satyavan surely liveth." And the Rishi said, "Considering the auspicious marks that his wife Savitri beareth and all of which indicate immunity from widowhood, there can be no doubt that Satyavan liveth." And Bharadvaja said, "Having regard to the ascetic merit, self-restraint, and conduct of his wife Savitri, there can be no doubt that Satyavan liveth." And Dalbhya said, "Since thou hast regained thy sight, and since Savitri hath gone away after completion of the vow, without taking any food, there can be no doubt that Satyavan liveth." And Apastamba said, "From the manner in which the voices of birds and wild animals are being heard through the stillness of the atmosphere on all sides, and from the fact also of thy having regained the use of thy eyes, indicating thy usefulness for earthly purposes once more, there can be no doubt that Satyavan liveth." And Doma said, "As thy son is graced with every virtue, and as he is the beloved of all, and as he is possessed of marks betokening a long life, there can be no doubt that Satyavan liveth." Markandeya continued, "Thus cheered by those ascetics of truthful speech, Dhumatsana pondering over those points, attained a little ease. A little while after, Savitri with her husband Satyavan reached the hermitage during the night and entered it with a glad heart. The Brahmanas then said, "Beholding this meeting with thy son, and thy restoration to eyesight, we all wish thee well, O Lord of earth. Thy meeting with thy son, thy sight of thy daughter-in-law, and thy restoration to sight constitute a threefold prosperity which thou hast gained. What we all have said must come to pass, there can be no doubt of this. Henceforth thou shalt rapidly grow in prosperity." Then, O Pritha's son, the twice-born ones lighted a fire and sat themselves down before King Dhumatsana. And C.I.E, and Satyavan, and Savitri who stood apart, their hearts free from grief, sat down with the permission of them all. Then Partha, seated with the monarch, those dwellers of the woods actuated by curiosity, asked the king's son, saying, "Why didst thou not, O illustrious one, come back earlier with thy wife? Why hast thou come so late in the night? What obstacle prevented thee?" "We do not know," Son of a king, why thou hast caused such alarm to us, and to thy father and mother? It behoveth thee to tell us all about this. Thereupon, Satyavan said, with the permission of my father, I went to the woods with Savitri. There, as I was hewing wood in the forest, I felt a pain in my head. And in consequence of the pain, I fell into a deep sleep. This is all that I remember. I had never slept so long before. I have come so late at night, in order that ye might not grieve on my account. There is no other reason for this. Gautama then said, Thou knowest not then the cause of thy father's sudden restoration to sight. It, therefore, behoveth Savitri to relate it. I wish to hear it from thee, for surely thou art conversant with the mysteries of good and evil. And, Savitri, I know thee to be like the goddess Savitri herself in splendor. Thou must know the cause of this. Therefore, do thou relate it truly. If it should not be kept a secret, do thou unfold it unto us. At these words of Gautama, Savitri said, It is as ye surmise. Your desire shall surely not be unfulfilled. I have no secret to keep. Listen to the truth then. The high-souled Narada had predicted the death of my husband. Today was the appointed time. I could not, therefore, bear to be separated from my husband's company. And after he had fallen asleep, Yama, accompanied by his messengers, presented himself before him and tying him, began to take him away towards the region inhabited by the P3s. Thereupon I began to praise that august God, with truthful words. And he granted me 5 boons, of which do ye hear from me. For my father-in-law I have obtained these 2 boons, viz., his restoration to sight, as also to his kingdom. My father also hath obtained 100 sons. And I myself have obtained 100 sons. And my husband Satyavan hath obtained a life of 400 years. It was for the sake of my husband's life that I had observed that vow. Thus have I narrated unto you in detail the cause by which this mighty misfortune of mine was afterwards turned into happiness. The rishis said, O chaste lady of excellent disposition, observant of vows and endued with virtue, and sprung from an illustrious line, by thee hath the race of this foremost of kings, which was overwhelmed with calamities, and was sinking in an ocean of darkness, been rescued. Markandeya continued, Then having applauded and reverenced that best of women, those rishis there assembled bade farewell to that foremost of kings as well as to his son. And having saluted them thus, they speedily went, in peace with cheerful hearts, to their respective abodes. Thus ends the 296th section in the Pativrata Mahatmya Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 297, Pativrata Mahatmya Parva continued. Markandeya continued, When the night had passed away, and the solar orb had risen, those ascetics, having performed their morning rites, assembled together. And although those mighty sages again and again spake unto Dyumatsana of the high fortune of Savitri, yet they were never satisfied. And it so happened, King, that there came to that hermitage a large body of people from Salva. And they brought tidings of the enemy of Dyumatsana having been slain by his own minister. And they related unto him all that had happened, viz., how having heard that the usurper had been slain with all his friends and allies by his minister, his troops had all fled, and how all the subjects had become unanimous on behalf of their legitimate king, saying, whether possessed of sight or not, even he shall be our king. And they said, We have been sent to thee in consequence of that resolve. These cars of thine, and this army also consisting of 4 kinds of forces, have arrived for thee. Good betide thee, O king. Do thou come. Thou hast been proclaimed in the city. Do thou forever occupy the station belonging to thy father and grandfather. And beholding the king possessed of sight and able-bodied, they bowed down their heads, their eyes expanded with wonder. Then having worshipped those old Brahmanas dwelling in the hermitage and honored by them in return, the king set out for his city. And surrounded by the soldiers, C.I.E also accompanied by Savitri, went in a vehicle furnished with shining sheets and borne on the shoulders of men. Then the priests with joyful hearts installed Dhumatsana on the throne with his high-souled son as Prince Regent. And after the lapse of a long time, Savitri gave birth to a century of sons, all warlike and unretreating from battle, and enhancing the fame of Salva's race. And she also had a century of highly powerful uterine brothers born unto Aswapati, the lord of the Madras, by Malavi. Thus, son of Pritha, did Savitri raise from pitiable plight to high fortune, herself, and her father and mother, her father-in-law and mother-in-law, as also the race of her husband. And like that gentle lady Savitri, the auspicious daughter of Drupada, endued with excellent character, will rescue you all. Vaisampayana said, thus exhorted by that high-souled sage, the son of Pandu, king, with his mind free from anxiety, continued to live in the forest of Kamyaka. The man that listeneth with reverence to the excellent story of Savitri, attaineth to happiness, and success in everything, and never meeteth with misery. Thus ends the 297th section in the Pativrata Mahatmya Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 298, Kundalaharana Parva. Janamejaya said, what, O Brahmana, was that great fear entertained by Yudhishthira in respect of Karna, for which Lomasa had conveyed to the son of Pandu a message of deep import from Indra in these words, that intense fear of thine which thou dost never express to any one, I will remove after Dhananjaya goeth from hence. And, best of ascetics, why was it that the virtuous Yudhishthira never expressed it to any one? Vaisampayana said, as thou askest me, tiger among kings, I will relate that history unto thee. Do thou listen to my words, best of the Bharatas. After 12 years of their exile had passed away and the 13th year had set in, Sakra, ever friendly to the sons of Pandu, resolved to beg of Karna his earrings. And, O mighty monarch, ascertaining this intention of the great chief of the celestials about Karna's earrings, Surya, having effulgence for his wealth, went unto Karna. And, foremost of kings, while that hero devoted to the Brahmanas and truthful in speech was lying down at night at his ease on a rich bed overlaid with a costly sheet, the effulgent deity, filled with kindness and affection for his son, showed himself, O Bharata, unto him in his dreams. And assuming from ascetic power the form of a handsome Brahmana versed in the Veds, Surya sweetly said unto Karna these words for his benefit, O son, do thou, O Karna, listen to these words of mine, O thou foremost of truthful persons. O mighty armed one, I tell thee today from affection, what is for thy great good. With the object, Karna, of obtaining thy earrings, Sakra, moved by the desire of benefiting the sons of Pandu, will come unto thee, disguised as a Brahmana. He as well as all the world knoweth thy character, viz, that when solicited by pious people, thou givest away but never takest in gift. Thou son, givest unto Brahmanas wealth or any other thing that is asked of thee and never refusest anything to anybody. Knowing thee to be such, the subduer himself of Paka will come to beg of thee thy earrings and coat of mail. When he beggeth the earrings of thee, it behoveth thee not to give them away, but to gratify him with sweet speeches to the best of thy power. Even this is for thy supreme good. While asking thee for the earrings, thou shalt with various reasons repeatedly refuse Purandara who is desirous of obtaining them, offering him instead various other kinds of wealth, such as gems and women and kin, and citing various precedents. If thou, O Karna, givest away thy beautiful earrings born with thee, thy life being shortened, thou wilt meet with death. Arrayed in thy mail and earrings thou wilt, O bestower of honors, be incapable of being slain by force in battle. Do thou lay to heart these words of mine. Both these jeweled ornaments have sprung from Amrita. Therefore, they should be preserved by thee, if thy life is at all dear to thee. Hearing these words, Karna said, Who art thou that tellest me so, showing me such kindness? If it pleaseth thee, tell me, illustrious one, who thou art in the guise of a Brahmana. The Brahmana thereupon said, O son, I am he of 1,000 race. Out of affection I point out to thee the path. Act thou according to my words, as it is for thy great good to do so. Karna replied, Surely this itself is highly fortunate for me that the God himself of splendor addresses me today, seeking my welfare. Listen however to these words of mine. May it please thee, bestower of boons, it is only from affection that I tell thee this. If I am dear to thee, I should not be dissuaded from the observance of my vow. Thou that art possessed of the wealth of effulgence, the whole world knoweth this to be my vow that, of a verity, I am prepared to give away life itself unto superior Brahmanas. If best of all rangers of the sky, Sakra cometh to me, disguised as a Brahmana to beg for the benefit of the sons of Pandu, I will, O chief of the celestials, give him the earrings and the excellent mail, so that my fame which hath spread over the 3 worlds may not suffer any diminution. For persons like us, it is not fit to save life by a blameworthy act. On the contrary, it is even proper for us to meet death with the approbation of the world and under circumstances bringing fame. Therefore will I bestow upon Indra the earrings with my coat of mail. If the slayer himself of Vala and Erythra cometh to ask for the earrings for the benefit of the sons of Pandu, that will conduce to my fame, leading at the same time to his infamy. Thou possessed of splendor, I wish for fame in this world, even if it is to be purchased with life itself, for they that have fame enjoy the celestial regions, while they that are destitute of it are lost. Fame keepeth people alive in this world even like a mother, while infamy killeth men even though they may move about with bodies undestroyed. Lord of the worlds, O thou possessed of the wealth of effulgence, that fame is the life of men is evidenced by an ancient sloka sung by the Creator himself. In the next world it is fame that is the chief support of a person, while in this world pure fame lengthens life. Therefore, by giving away my earrings and mail with both of which I was born, I will win eternal fame. And by duly giving away the same to Brahmanas, according to the ordinance, by offering up my body as a gift to the gods in the sacrifice of war, by achieving feats difficult of performance, and by conquering my foes in fight, I will acquire nothing but renown. And by dispelling on the field of battle the fears of the affrighted that may beg for their lives, and relieving old men and boys and Brahmanas from terror and anxiety, I will win excellent fame and the highest heaven. My fame is to be protected with the sacrifice of even my life. Even this, know thou, is my vow. By giving away such a valuable gift to Magavan disguised as a Brahmana, I will, God, acquire in this world the most exalted state. Thus ends the 298th section in the Kundalaharana Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 299, Kundalaharana Parva continued. Surya said, Never do, O Karna, anything that is harmful to thyself and thy friends, thy sons, thy wives, thy father, and thy mother. Thou best of those that bear life, people desire renown in this world and lasting fame in heaven without wishing to sacrifice their bodies. But as thou desirest undying fame at the expense of thy life, she will without doubt snatch away thy life. O bull among men, in this world the father, the mother, the son, and other relatives are of use only to him that is alive. Tiger among men, as regard kings, it is only when they are alive that prowess can be of any use to them. Do thou understand this. Thou of exceeding splendor, fame is for the good of these only that are alive. Of what use is fame to the dead whose bodies have been reduced to ashes? One that is dead cannot enjoy renown. It is only when one is alive that one can enjoy it. The fame of one that is dead is like a garland of flowers around the neck of a corpse. As thou reverest me, I tell thee this for thy benefit because thou art a worshipper of mine. They that worship me are always protected by me. That also is another reason for my addressing thee thus. Thinking again, mighty armed one, that this one revereth me with great reverence, I have been inspired with love for thee. Do thou therefore act according to my words. There is besides some profound mystery in all this, ordained by fate. It is for this that I tell thee so. Do thou act without mistrust of any kind, bull among men. It is not fit for thee to know this which is a secret to the very gods. Therefore, I do not reveal that secret unto thee. Thou wilt however understand it in time. I repeat what I have already said. Do thou, O Radha's son, lay my words to heart. When the wielder of the thunderbolt asketh thee for them, do thou never give him thy earrings. Thou of exceeding splendor, with thy handsome earrings thou lookest beautiful, even like the moon himself in the clear firmament between the Visakha constellation. Dost thou know that fame availeth only the person that is living? Therefore, when the Lord of the Celestials will ask thee earrings, thou shouldst, O son, refuse him. Repeating again and again answers fraught with various reasons, thou wilt, sinless one, be able to remove the eagerness of the Lord of the Celestial for the possession of the earrings. Do thou, Karna, alter Purandara's purpose by urging answers fraught with reason and grave import and adorned with sweetness and suavity. Thou dost always, tiger among men, challenge him that can draw the bow with his left hand, and heroic Arjuna also will surely encounter thee in fight. But when furnished with thy earrings, Arjuna will never be able to vanquish thee in fight, even if Indra himself comes to his assistance. Therefore, O Karna, if thou wishest to vanquish Arjuna in battle, these handsome earrings of thine should never be parted with to Sakra. Thus ends the 299th section in the Kundalaharana Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 300, Kundalaharana Parva continued. Karna said, As thou, O Lord of splendor, knowest me for thy worshipper, so also thou knowest that there is nothing which I cannot give away in charity, thou of fiery race. Neither my wives, nor my sons, nor my own self, nor my friends, are so dear to me as thou, on account of the veneration I feel for thee, Lord of splendor. Thou knowest, O Maker of light, that high-souled persons bear a loving regard for their dear worshippers. Karna revereth me and is dear to me. He knoweth no other deity in heaven. Thinking this, thou hast, Lord, said unto me what is for my benefit. Yet, O thou of bright race, again do I beseech thee with bended head, again do I place myself in thy hands. I will repeat the answer I have already given. It behoveth thee to forgive me. Death itself is not fraught with such terrors for me as untruth. As regards especially the Brahmanas, again, I do not hesitate to yield up my life even for them. And O Divine One, respecting what thou hast said unto me of Falguna, the son of Pandu, let thy grief born of thy anxiety of heart, O Lord of splendor, be dispelled touching him and myself, for I shall surely conquer Arjuna in battle. Thou knowest, deity, that I have great strength of weapons obtained from Jamdagnya and the high-souled Drona. Permit me now, foremost of celestials, to observe my vow, so that unto him of the thunderbolt coming to beg of me, I may give away even my life. Surya said, If son, thou givest away thy earrings to the wielder of the thunderbolt, O thou of mighty strength, thou shouldst also, for the purpose of securing victory, speak unto him, saying, Thou of 100 sacrifices, I shall give thee earrings under a condition. Furnished with the earrings thou art certainly incapable of being slain by any being. Therefore it is son, that desirous of beholding thee slain in battle by Arjuna, the destroyer of the Danavas, desireth to deprive thee of thy earrings. Repeatedly adoring with truthful words that Lord of the Celestials, viz. Purandara, armed with weapons incapable of being frustrated, do thou also beseech him, saying, Give me an infallible dart capable of slaying all foes, and I will, O thousand-eyed deity, give thee earrings with the excellent coat of mail. On this condition shouldst thou give the earrings unto Sakra. With that dart, O Karna, thou wilt slay foes in battle, for O mighty armed one, that dart of the chief of the celestials doth not return to the hand that hurled it, without slaying enemies by hundreds and by thousands. Vaisampayana continued, having said this, the thousand-red deity suddenly vanished away. The next day, after having told his prayers, Karna related his dream unto the sun. And Drisha related unto him the vision he had seen and all that had passed between them in the night. Thereupon, having heard everything, that enemy of Swabhanu, that Lord, the resplendent and divine Surya, said unto him with a smile, It is even so. Then Radha's son, that slayer of hostile heroes, knowing all about the matter, and desirous of obtaining the dart, remained in expectation of Vasava. Thus ends the 300th section in the Kundalaharana Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 301, Kundalaharana Parva continued. Janamejaya said, What was that secret which was not revealed to Karna by the deity of warm race? Of what kind also were those earrings, and of what sort was that coat of mail? Whence too was that mail and those earrings? All this, best of men, I wish to hear. Thou possessed of the wealth of asceticism, do tell me all this. Vaisampayana said, I will, monarch, tell thee that secret which was not revealed by the deity possessed of the wealth of effulgence. I will also describe unto thee those earrings and that coat of mail. Once on a time, king, there appeared before Kuntiboja a Brahmana of fierce energy and tall stature, bearing a beard and matted locks and carrying a staff in his hand. And he was agreeable to the eye, and of faultless limbs, and seemed to blaze forth in splendor. And he was possessed of a yellow-blue complexion like that of honey. And his speech was mellifluous, and he was adorned with ascetic merit and a knowledge of the Veds. And that person of great ascetic merit, addressing King Kuntiboja, said, O thou that art free from pride, I wish to live as a guest in thy house, feeding on the food obtained as alms from thee. Neither thy followers, nor thou thyself shall ever act in such a way as to produce my displeasure. If, O sinless one, it pleaseth thee, I would then live in thy house thus. I shall leave thy abode when I wish, and come back when I please. And king, no one shall offend me in respect of my food or bed. Then Kuntiboja spake unto him these words cheerfully, Be it so and more. And he again said unto him, O thou of great wisdom, I have an illustrious daughter named Pritha. And she beareth an excellent character, is observant of vow, chaste and of subdued senses. And she shall attend on thee and minister unto thee with reverence. And thou wilt be pleased with her disposition. And having said this to that Brahmana and duly paid him homage, the king went to his daughter Pritha of large eyes, and spake thus unto her, O child, this eminently pious Brahmana is desirous of dwelling in my house. I have accepted his proposal, saying, So be it, relying, child, on thy aptitude and skill in ministering unto Brahmanas. It therefore behoveth thee to act in such a manner that my words may not be untrue. Do thou give him with alacrity whatever this reverend Brahmana, possessed of ascetic merit and engaged in the study of the Veds, may want. Let everything that this Brahmana asketh for be given to him cheerfully. A Brahmana is the embodiment of preeminent energy, he is also the embodiment of the highest ascetic merit. It is in consequence of the virtuous practices of Brahmanas that the sun shineth in the heavens. It was for their disregard of Brahmanas that were deserving of honor that the mighty Asura Vatapi, as also Thalajanga, was destroyed by the curse of the Brahmanas. For the present child, it is a highly virtuous one of that order that is entrusted to thy keep. Thou shouldst always tend this Brahmana with concentrated mind. Daughter, I know that from childhood upwards, thou hast ever been attentive to Brahmanas and superiors, and relatives and servants, and friends to thy mothers and myself. I know thou bearest thyself well, bestowing proper regard upon everyone. And, thou of faultless limbs, in the city of the interior of my palace, on account of thy gentle behavior, there is not one even among the servants that is dissatisfied with thee. I have therefore thought thee fit to wait upon all Brahmanas of wrathful temper. Thou art Pritha, a girl, and has been adopted as my daughter. Thou art born in the race of the Vrishnis and art the favourite daughter of Sura. Thou wert, girl, given to me gladly by thy father himself. The sister of Vasudeva by birth, thou art by adoption the foremost of my children. Having promised me in these words, I will give my firstborn, thy father gladly gave thee to me while thou wert yet in thy infancy. It is for this reason that thou art my daughter. Born in such a race and reared in such a race, thou hast come from one happy state to another, like a lotus transferred from one lake to another. O auspicious girl, women, specially they that are of mean extraction, although they may with difficulty be kept under restraint, become in consequence of their unripe age generally deformed in character. But thou, Pritha, art born in a royal race and thy beauty also is extraordinary. And then, O girl, thou art endued with every accomplishment. Do thou therefore, damsel, renouncing pride and haughtiness and a sense of self-importance, wait upon and worship the boon-giving Brahmana and thereby attain, O Pritha, to an auspicious state. By acting thus, auspicious and sinless girl, thou wilt surely attain to auspiciousness. But if on the contrary thou stirrest up the anger of this best of the twice-born ones, my entire race will be consumed by him. Thus ends the 301st section in the Kundalaharana Parva of the Vana Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.